They're super intelligent, sentient, far-ranging, and live in close families in their ocean environment, with their own language and their own culture. So why do we allow them to be imprisoned in small concrete tanks to perform mindless tricks? It's really promoted by SeaWorld, a billion-dollar corporation, the largest force behind the captivity industry for dolphins and orcas. They're pouring millions of dollars into false advertising campaigns to convince people that orcas and their smaller dolphin cousins are happy and healthy in their tanks.
With the highest standard of animal care in the world, our whales are healthy.
They're thriving.
I wouldn't work here if they weren't.
But the facts say something quite different. If you look behind the scenes to find out what is really going on, it's not a pretty picture. If whales in concrete tanks are so happy, then why have there been attacks on trainers over the years? It's been lots of injuries, and those are just the incidents that we know about. Would orcas, who have never harmed humans in the open ocean, attack people in captivity if they were happy? Contrary to SeaWorld's claims, it's a fact. Orcas live far shorter lives in captivity than they do in the wild. It's their sterile environment, multiple forced performances every day, stress, boredom, lack of proper exercise. These all take their toll. Wild orcas travel hundreds of miles in a single day. They're mating, they're socializing, they're feeding. They're doing all the things that wild orcas do. But in a cramped concrete tank, they just languish there. It'd be no different than us living our entire lives in a phone booth. In captivity, as compared to the wild, orcas are stressed and bored. The male dorsal fin, tall and upright in the wild, collapses and flops over in captivity. Many orcas grind their teeth to the gums on iron bars or concrete. Others are given drugs and forced to perform 3 times a day, 7 days a week. They suffer other physical and psychological ailments. Captivity changes them. They can't live like orcas, and it's frankly animal abuse. Retiring them to open ocean sea sanctuaries, where they can feel and hear and experience the natural ocean environment, could give them back their health and well-being. And it would also recognize that capturing and importing and trading dolphins and whales must end.
Some say, free the whales. For them, nothing else is acceptable. But nothing could be worse for the whales. Sending them into the wild wouldn't be noble. It could be fatal.
SeaWorld's TV ads are just part of their smoke and mirrors PR campaign. Many of the orcas at SeaWorld were born in captivity and can't be released back to the wild. They know full well that what is being called for is the retirement of dolphins and orcas to protected seaside sanctuaries. Yet when their CEO, Joel Manby, was confronted with a question about retiring these animals to a sea pen,
we feel, and we've studied this a lot, we feel it's a very risky environment to do that.
His concern really is to try to put out this mirage, this smoke and mirrors act that everything is okay, and bring back the attendance that's been lost, and bring back the shareholders that have fled from SeaWorld. And they used the death of Keiko, the star of Free Willy, to justify their position.
When they freed Keiko, the killer whale of movie fame, the effort was a failure, and he perished.
SeaWorld is way off the mark in criticizing the rescue and retirement effort for Keiko, the orca made famous in the Free Willy movies. In truth, Keiko's return home was a huge success. He was stripped from his family and brought into captivity when he was 2 years old, and was living in poor health decades later in Mexico City. Keiko's health was so bad that SeaWorld refused to even take him for free at any of their facilities. But when he was moved to a place with natural seawater and no performance, his health returned. He went from near death in captivity to full health in a sea sanctuary. He became the first ever orca whale returned to his home waters in a sea sanctuary in Iceland. He went even further than that, swimming freely with wild orcas in Iceland. The Keiko Odyssey is actually proof positive that every single orca at SeaWorld could live longer and healthier, better lives in sea sanctuaries. And what about their smaller dolphin cousins? While SeaWorld has promised to end breeding of orcas because of growing public pressure, that's not the case with the smaller dolphins. SeaWorld now is increasing the sales of tickets for swimming with dolphins, where customers are pulled around a pool holding on to a dolphin's dorsal fin. Even with declining ticket sales, SeaWorld holds on to their abusive business model, refusing any retirement of orcas and dolphins. But you can't fool the public forever. You just can't. Ringling Brothers found this out the hard way. For when their abusive elephant program was made public, it wasn't long before attendance declined, forcing them to ultimately shut down altogether because people had had enough of supporting that abuse. Today, younger generations are learning how wrong it is to keep orcas and dolphins in small, sterile concrete tanks. It was people who witnessed the powerful message of the Free Willy movies. People who saw and responded to the heartbreaking scenes in The Cove, or watched CNN's primetime broadcast of the movie Blackfish as it pulled back the curtain on SeaWorld's abuse. In spite of enormous public pressure and investors pulling out and their stock dropping, SeaWorld holds on to orca shows and swim with dolphin programs. One would like to think that SeaWorld would see the writing on the wall and would realize that things have to change. France has now banned the captive breeding of all orcas and smaller dolphins and banned the keeping of these animals in captivity. And they're not alone. The board of directors of the Vancouver Park banned the keeping of all cetaceans. And the National Aquarium has plans to move their captive dolphins to a seaside sanctuary in Florida. Why? Because the public is sending the message to them that they don't want to support this continued activity, that they don't see exploitation as something that they want their dollars to support. After nearly 6 decades of existence, SeaWorld has yet to retire a single orca or dolphin, and they refuse to do so. To SeaWorld, their dolphin and orca retirement plan can be summed up in one word: death. Orcas and other dolphins have basic rights to live free in their natural environment. We need to recognize that. Every single one of the orcas and dolphins at SeaWorld could do far better away from concrete tanks and in a protected sea sanctuary, where they can at least have some semblance of what it's like to live in natural seawater, the sights and sounds of the ocean, and the chance to be free of circus performance and to exhibit their true grace and beauty.